Hello, everyone. My name is Matt Bray from Preview. First, a big thank you for joining us today on this special webinar on choosing Namibia for meetings and incentives. This is the first of a two-part series on Namibia. And for those of you here with us live and those watching the recorded webinar at a later date, we hope you'll join us for webinar number 2 on March 13th, which is covering Namibia outside of the meeting room. Now on to today's webinar. During the presentation, feel free to type in any questions you may have into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll go over them, as many of them as we can at the end of the webinar. Also, if you want to see the presentation in full screen, just move your cursor to the upper right of the presentation window and click the button labeled full screen. You can then jump back down in size by simply pushing the button again. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce our presenter for today's webinar, Jeremy Sampson. Jeremy works closely with the Namibia Tourism Board, leading the festival and events component of the North American Destination Marketing Campaign. Through his work in Namibia, he has helped to develop capacity of festival and event planners in the destination through a series of training and strategic planning sessions. Jeremy is also Senior Director, Marketing and Communications for Global NGO Sustainable Travel. Jeremy, thanks so much for being here today. I'm going to pass the reins over to you.
Thanks so much, Matt. Hello, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here presenting to you all and look forward to sharing some information with you about Namibia. Just to expand a little bit on Matt's introduction of me, I am based here in the US, just outside Portland, Oregon, and I work closely with the Namibia Tourism Board as part of a project called the North American Destination Marketing Campaign. One of the components of the campaign is festivals and events, and through that role, I work closely with operators in Namibia, as well as working here in North America to build awareness of Namibia as a destination in the North American market, particularly here in the meeting and incentive sector. So I also have two guests here with me today, who you will hear from a little bit later. Natasha Martin, who is based in Namibia, is a colleague of mine, and she's going to be speaking for a few minutes in the middle of the presentation. And also Talia Salem, who has supported me on this project, is here to help support and answer questions as well later during the Q&A. So with that, I'm excited to introduce you to Namibia. So coming into this presentation, I thought, gosh, I really want to share something personal with you all about Namibia. And there's a picture of me. I had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time in Namibia last year as part of this project, and also just got the opportunity to spend about 10 days traveling with my father through some of the most amazing parts of Namibia. And as I looked through my pictures, I really wanted to share a picture with you of me in Namibia. And as I looked through, I was having a hard time figuring out which picture I wanted to share because there were so many great ones. But I landed on this one because I really feel like this picture encapsulates what's amazing about Namibia. Here I am standing in really just in an open field up close to a black rhino. And I think that's what Namibia is all about, having these really sort of amazing experiences up close to wildlife, experiencing amazing landscapes. There's no one else around. You can't really see the rest of the sort of field of vision, but there's just 3 other people there with me. We're having coffee. It's early in the morning, and having coffee in a field with some black rhino. And I think that's what Namibia is about, having amazing experiences and really just unspoiled landscapes and just being surrounded by really incredible wildlife and incredible nature. Namibia recently has, I think, gained quite a bit of cachet in the industry. Namibia was chosen as the host of the Adventure Travel World Summit for 2013. It was named one of the 13 top places to visit in 2013 by AFAR Magazine. And I want to share with you a little bit about why that is and why Namibia is developing this cachet of late. So I'm going to start out with the introduction, just a very basic introduction to the destination. Some of the highlights. So Namibia has 2.3 million people, and you can see the size of the country and as it compares to maybe something more familiar here in North America. Namibia is actually the second least densely populated country in the world after Mongolia. It's been independent since 1990, made up of 13 regions and 11 ethnic groups. English is the official language, but you'll also find Afrikaans and German spoken widely, as well as a number of regional languages. One interesting fact, the Constitution of Namibia actually mandates the conservation of natural resources. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but that is certainly a main aspect and highlight of Namibia as a tourism destination and as a place to live. A bit more in the way of general information, Namibia is a place that can be visited year-round. The rainy season is in the summer, which is our winter, so November through February, but there are 300 days of sunshine per year. Namibia is an extremely safe destination. We'll get into that a little bit more as well. It's made up of really fascinating and unspoiled landscapes. Namibia is a place where one can certainly self-drive if that's of interest. There's a great tourism infrastructure. No vaccinations are needed to visit, and there's easy entry requirements. A passport is required, obviously, and then a visa for tourists is not required. For business travelers, something that can be paid upon entry. So why should you in your role be thinking about Namibia? A couple points I want to emphasize. Number one is just to emphasize the ease of travel. English is spoken everywhere. Namibia is not a crowded place at all, not crowded to live and not crowded for tourists to visit. There's a democratic government, great infrastructure, and again, just a real safe place to visit. I would say if for those just looking to come and do business, Namibia is probably not the ideal place, but it is an ideal place to bring groups who are looking to be inspired. So the meeting and incentive opportunities, I'd say, are relatively small scale, but provide a truly unparalleled experience. So we're talking retreats, team building, incentive travel experiences, small business meetings, sports events, so activities of that nature. So marketing in Namibia, above all, is aimed at quality clientele, and I'd say this is also true of the meeting and incentive market. Tourism is growing quite rapidly, but not at all linked to mass tourism. So I wanted to share this slide with you to give you a sense for who is visiting Namibia and who the destination most appeals to. Through our campaigns research, we have identified 4 target tribes which have the greatest propensity to travel to Namibia. So first off, you have experience seekers. These are environmentally inclined culture seekers. They'll travel to experience everything from Broadway plays to Balinese dance. You have your curious conservationists, people interested in flora and fauna, very environmentalist, and also eager to engage with other cultures. You have your self-challengers. These are confident travelers. They want to be the first to visit somewhere. They want to be the only one of their friends to have experienced something. And trophies are really important to them. So really that opportunity to have some bragging rights, something to tell their friends and family that they experienced that not many people have experienced. And outdoor enthusiasts, so those who travel for the specific purpose of being outdoors, for hunting, fishing, hiking, outdoor sports, adventure. They often like to be out in the backcountry, not necessarily traveling for cultural reasons. So each tribe is well aligned with Namibia's product offerings, many of which are what we call only in Namibia experiences. What are some of those? Only in Namibia can you climb the world's highest sand dunes. Only in Namibia can you track a rare black rhino. Only in Namibia will you find 40 to 50% of the planet's cheetah population. Only in Namibia are endangered species being translocated onto communal conservancy land. only in Namibia is 100% of the coastline protected. So I want you to take home 3 points about Namibia. We'll start with the first one. Namibia remains an undiscovered and unspoiled wonder. So unlike places you may be more familiar with in Africa, like Kenya or South Africa, visitors to Namibia, particularly from North America, will really experience the country at its finest. So feeling as if they're the first ones to step on a dune, or not having to share a watering hole with 15 to 20 other vehicles, the chance to meet people whose cultures are different, but whose warmth really makes them feel at home. Namibia is all about dramatic landscape and incredible views. That landscape is really diverse. So depending on what region you're in, whether it's dunes running into the coastline dramatically, or open savannas with amazing opportunities to view and photograph wildlife, or really just sit and experience experience nature at its finest. Point number 2, Namibia is safe and provides outstanding infrastructure. So I've said this a couple times already, and really something that I want you to take home, because it's not always expected of Africa or most developing countries, but Namibia really provides a sense of security, ease of movement, amazing infrastructure, just ability to get around easily. The road network is well maintained. It's easy to schedule on charter flights, and accommodations are easy to come by, and those accommodations are varied enough to accommodate a diverse section of visitors. A little bit more on the safety. Water is potable. Government is secure and committed. The private healthcare, as well as professional doctors and emergency services, are accessible and easy to deal with. And you can find really a diverse array of food options, whether it's Western or more traditional Namibian cuisine. Just a quick story to share here. Not one of my favorite moments of my trip, but as I was traveling for 10 days with my dad, we actually unfortunately landed in the hospital for a day and a half, something that my dad had to deal with. And I'm sharing this not because it was a fun experience, but because it was actually one of the easiest and most, I guess, really just easiest to take care of medical experiences I've ever had, whether at home or abroad. My dad needed some help right away. We walked in, got the help that we needed. It was friendly, fast, and affordable healthcare that we were just so pleased by the experience. And so obviously not necessarily the highlight of the of the trip, but wanted to share that with you just as a way to bring home some of the safety and infrastructure points that I'm trying to make here. Again, so first world infrastructure. Now this is probably important to people here on the call, but there is an excellent road network. First-class telecommunications systems, shopping centers are modern, the accommodations are comfortable, and the tourism industry is completely regulated by the tourism board. So the third point, Namibia is liberating. So Namibia is a place that can be visited at your own pace and on your own terms. So really like nowhere else in Africa, Namibia provides visitors with the opportunity to escape stress, to experience peace and freedom, to sit and admire landscapes and to reflect. North American visitors are not going to be part of a large guided tour as experienced elsewhere in Africa, unless that's something that is requested. And they're not going to be required to be part of large group activities that sort of lack that personal touch, In other parts of Africa, you're experiencing really sort of tightly organized and often large and crowded game drives where really you're not getting to have the experience of witnessing wildlife in their natural habitat and in the way that you might like to, because there's often distracted by all the other vehicles and all the other people. So I'd say it's a much less contrived experience. You're not being made to visit contrived roadside gift shops all the time. So Namibia is all about getting outside and seeing and doing. Namibia is very focused on adventure. The adventure mostly centers around the coastal area and the desert, and there's a great variety of adventure activities. You can see them all listed there: quad biking, hiking, ballooning, skydiving. For the non sort of adventure or non-extreme adventure folks, there's also plenty of other activities. Mostly game drives, I'd say, is the most popular activity for folks in Namibia. They're quite extensive and quite amazing. Lots of opportunity to see wildlife in other ways: cruises, bird watching, etc. A bit about the people of Namibia. There's lots of opportunity to connect with Namibian people and culture. It's a diverse place, but people are friendly, welcoming, accommodating, and helpful. And I think this is interesting: 85% literacy rate, not necessarily something you'd expect of an African country or developing country as well. So combined, these 3 points, I think, express a quality that is hard to find in places throughout the world, which is freedom. Namibia really offers the freedom to explore. I think connecting back to, unparalleled experiences for meetings and incentives. This is the place to do it. This is the place where you can really inspire people and give people the opportunity to get outside their day to day and have really an unparalleled experience. Wanted to share a little bit about the wildlife. You can find the Big Five in Namibia. I was able to experience that myself in just a couple of days out in observing wildlife. You have the largest black rhino and cheetah populations in the world. The famous African elephant can be found in Namibia. There's a vast array of bird life. Namibia celebrated 100 years of conservation in 2007. And one of our favorite facts, 42% of the total country surface is under land conservation management. Nowhere in the world comes close to this degree of protection. And I think this is one of the most special things about Namibia. Oh, and Natasha tells me it's 44%. Sorry about that. I used the wrong number, so increasing even more. So we're up to 44. Quick overview of air options for you guys in terms of just primary air options. Air Namibia is the national airline and flies directly to Namibia via Frankfurt. Also from North America, British Airways and South African Airways, which is a Star Alliance airline, take you there via Johannesburg. You can get to Johannesburg via a couple of North American hubs. Airlines are very open to group sales, very, very willing to work with groups who are visiting, so wanted to make that point. And once you're in country, it's very easy to charter flights or arrange for ground transport in the country. Like I said, there's a nice infrastructure, pretty easy to get around. So I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation the Adventure Travel World Summit. This is something we're really excited about. Namibia was selected by the Adventure Travel Trade Association to host the Adventure Travel World Summit in 2013. This is the first time that the summit will be held in Africa. And I wanted to invite Natasha Martin, my colleague who is based in Namibia, to speak to the Adventure Travel World Summit for a few minutes. She's been instrumental in helping to bring the summit to Namibia and organizing the efforts. She's been working really closely with the Adventure Travel Trade Association to both secure the bid and to organize the event itself. So I asked her to come speak for a few minutes to share a little bit about why Namibia was chosen and what that process has looked like to date. So I'll turn it over to Natasha for a few minutes.
Thanks, Jeremy. So my name is Natasha and I'm based here in Namibia. And Jeremy asked me just to go over a little bit about the summit, why the Adventure Travel Trade Association chose Namibia as the first African destination to host their summit, what was important to them. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the summit, but it's an annual gathering of 700 adventure tourism professionals, and every year it's held in a different location. So last year it was in Switzerland, and the year before that it was in Mexico, and as Jeremy mentioned, Namibia is the first African destination to host this event. Namibia actively pursued the summit. Tourism, it's a tourism conference, and tourism is one of the most important sectors in this economy. So Namibia really saw the opportunity here and the benefits that hosting would deliver over the long term. So they really created, the whole team over here created a really unique sort of itinerary or program for the delegates, which will include pre-summit adventures, traveling around the country, hosted by Namibian operators, meeting up in the capital city, Windhoek, before spending another overnight in the field and traveling to the coastal town of Swakopmund, which is the picture that you see there on your slide. And the conference itself will be held on the coast. The coast is sort of an adventure capital, so it makes a lot of sense to hold the Adventure Travel World Summit there. And Namibia really, as it does in several meetings, incidentally, Namibia hosts a lot of meetings, and at the same time as the Adventure Travel World Summit, there will be an international water conference. But, you know, just an interesting point is that there is capacity for these two large groups at the same time. The country will be able to put together the logistics and the hotel rooms to accommodate these two large groups. And when Namibia goes about sort of bidding on summits, and I've seen this firsthand in my work here, it's really an inspiring public-private partnership, and both the public sector and the private sector really work together to create a unique experience. So why did the Adventure Travel Trade Association choose Namibia? When Jeremy asked me this question, I thought about it, and I think there's two really key reasons. And the first, I think Jeremy's touched on quite a bit. It's the ease of actually getting around and doing business in an African country like Namibia. It's safe. And to give you an example, I live in Windhoek and I routinely jog at night. You can drink the water, it's no problem. There's no violence. Everybody speaks English. So it is, although it's a very unique destination, it's an easy place and a safe place. But secondly, and I think the second reason that ATTA chose Namibia is because the core message here in Namibia, which Jeremy touched on, this conservation message, really resonates with ATTA's vision and mission for their association. And I think they saw the hosting of the summit here as an extension of their vision for global adventure tourism, which is a successful combination of community development, conservation, and tourism. So this conservation success story, I think, was inspiring to them and helped us bring the summit here to Namibia. In terms of what was important to the Adventure Travel Trade Association when they chose Namibia, Jeremy mentioned airlift, and the association was able to secure really good deals with both Air Namibia and South African Airlines. So the delegates coming from all over the world, from Australia, from South America, from the US, from Canada, have gotten access to really wonderful deals. Hotel rooms, the capacity in Windhoek, you know, we have great conference venues in Windhoek and enough rooms. Also in Swakop, there's wonderful conference facilities. There's no hotel that accommodates 700 people, but in lieu of that, we access all the small bed and breakfasts and the guest house that are all within walking distance of the main conference venue, which gives people a very unique experience and a way to have a sort of more local stay as well. Logistics. We proposed a fairly complicated summit. You can go on the Adventure Travel Trade Association's website and see the movement of people where they do their trips before the summit. People congregate in Windhoek and then move on to the coast. But the tour operators and the shuttle drivers here are highly professional. And when the ATTA team came to do their site inspection, we made sure we demonstrated that to them, which I think is another important point. When the site inspection team came to Namibia, we didn't just tour them around the sites, we pretended that they were delegates so they could experience exactly what a delegate would experience, to give them that exact feeling, starting sort of with a special desk at immigration at the airport, down to the dinner in Windhoek and an overnight in the field. So I think that side of what this commitment of Namibia to make the site inspection like the conference itself, our commitment to securing the hotel rooms and proving that the logistics are really solid, helped us secure the bid. So I hope that gives you a little bit of background on why ATTA selected Namibia, and I'll pass it back to Jeremy.
Thanks, Natasha. I appreciate that. One of the things I really got from just listening to you talk there, just as a reminder, was how much Namibians love to host. You know, Namibians will go out of their way to host whether it's individuals or large groups. And just listening to you talk reminded me of that, because I think Namibians are extremely proud of their country, extremely proud of their culture. They're extremely protective of their culture and extremely protective of the destination. And that's why, throughout this growth in tourism, there's been a real insistence on, we don't want mass tourism. We don't want to do anything that would ruin our sort of the assets and the resources that we're so proud of. But we're very willing to work with visitors and to work with even large groups to accommodate and to really show off the best of the best of the destination. So thanks for sharing, Natasha. And Natasha's going to stick around for the Q&A if there's any questions that people have. So moving along in the presentation, what I wanted to do was just to share with you a couple of the key destinations within Namibia. Really, the first two, excuse me, the first two are ideal for meetings and events, and the other two would really be best built into an itinerary, or could work well for incentive travel or really very special itineraries. So the first one is Windhoek, which is the capital city of Namibia. Windhoek really is one of the most modern and safe cities in all of Africa. The population is 400,000. It's quite close to the airport and really very easy to get around. As mentioned a few times, just good infrastructure, ease of travel is right there. It is the sort of main commercial and industrial center of Namibia. They're well equipped with a conference infrastructure. Windhoek does offer professional conference organizers, and the city of Windhoek will support groups as well if you are interested in connecting with them. So there are a number of prime venues and facilities that can be accessed in Windhoek, capacity up to 2,500. Just give you a couple of examples there. The Safari Court Hotel, Windhoek Country Club and Resort, Kalahari Sands, and Hilton Windhoek all have large capacity for both meetings and rooms in terms of hosting people. Numerous other all four of those are located really right in the heart of Windhoek. There are numerous other options in Windhoek that are just on the outskirts, which provide a more relaxed environment than sort of right in the middle of the city. One thing that's great about Windhoek is that you have access to wildlife really close. And one of the places I stayed was just 15 to 20 minutes outside of Windhoek, called Gochiganes. It was an amazing wellness center and lodge. And they had their own private game reserve where we were able to see nearly all of the wildlife, and this was just 15 minutes outside of Windhoek. So that's Windhoek. Natasha also mentioned Swakopmund, which is really Namibia's coastal resort town. The town is really has sort of an old world charm. There's a lot of colonial architecture. It's certainly a relaxed atmosphere, although it certainly does have sort of a business and commercial center. Namibians all spend their summers on the coast in Swakopmund. It gets really busy in the summer. In fact, in December, it's impossible to reach anyone in Namibia because they're all there on the coast having holiday. Swakopmund is right where the desert meets the ocean, so you get these dramatic and amazing sand dunes that literally run into the ocean. It's a really incredible sight to see. Pretty wide choice of hotels and restaurants, shopping, and the weather in Swakopmund is quite a bit more temperate because of its location on the Skeleton Coast. It's quite cool for most of the year. It doesn't get very hot as it does in other parts of Namibia in spring and summer. A couple of key venues here: the Swakopmund Hotel and Entertainment Center, which is our main venue for the Adventure Travel World Summit, as Natasha alluded to. You know, there's not necessarily a venue that can host something the size of the Adventure Travel World Summit, which is going to be 700 delegates, but the destination is really working with the delegation to accommodate everyone, and everything is so walkable in Swakopmund. It's really going to actually be quite a nice experience. So 2 other locations I want to make sure you know about. Atocha National Park is really sort of the can't miss spot for visitors to Namibia. It is about a 5 to 6 hour drive from Windhoek. It's also quite easy to charter a quick flight there. Atocha National Park is one of the most amazing places I've ever seen. It's the place where you really will have the most wide open landscapes for viewing game. They also have a series of floodlit watering holes where you can observe wildlife basically 24 hours a day, and some of the best wildlife viewing can be done at night, sitting just relaxing and hanging out and watching the amazing animals in their natural habitat. So inside Atocha, there are 4 camps. There are also a variety of lodges and other accommodations just outside the park. So Atocha itself is really accessible. Again, you know, this wouldn't necessarily be the place to come and host a large meeting, but really perfect for incentives, special events, or small conferences. A couple of key venues here. You can see the capacity is lower. That's not surprising. These are all lodges that are just outside of Atocha and really provide sort of a gateway to the park. And the final place I wanted to share with you is Namibia Tourism Board, which is basically the host to Swakopmund. Swakopmund is a large area that's filled with some of the largest dunes in Namibia. This sort of large red sand dune is one of the most famous ones. And when you think about the dunes of Africa, in fact, you may have seen a lot of movies have been filmed in this area. This is the place to visit to experience those dunes. It's one of the most versatile conservation areas in the country and real popular with hikers. Also easy to drive there or fly from either Windhoek or Swakopmund. So that's the presentation. Before the Q&A, just want to share with you a couple of key things that are coming up here. There's my contact information. I'd be happy to talk with you more about the destination, about the opportunities there, and also to connect you with planners directly in the country. A couple of events coming up I want to share with you. Number 1 is a West Coast Roadshow that both myself and Natasha will be on. We'll be visiting the Denver-Boulder area, followed by San Francisco, followed by Seattle. If you're in either or any of those 3 locations and are interested in learning more about the destination, we have a couple of opportunities for you to do that. We're going to be hosting a couple of trade events and cocktail hours. Please email me right away to let me know that you're interested, and I will make sure you're included and can come spend a little bit of time with us and meet with us to talk a little bit more specifically about Namibia and also share some cocktails. Second webinar is going to be on March 13th. We'll be going a little bit more in detail into some interesting itineraries and things that can be done outside of the business setting. Talia will be presenting that webinar, so looking forward to that. Please join us then. And we are putting together a FAM trip in May. You can see the dates there. If there's interest on your end in participating, please also email me as soon as possible so we can discuss the details and find out if you're a good fit for that trip. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Matt for the Q&A, and just want to thank everyone for listening to our presentation today.
Jeremy, thank you. Natasha, thank you. All know that the Q&A is at the very bottom of your screen. If you have any questions, please feel free to write them into the Q&A. That's great that you talked a little bit about the roadshow. We actually had a question that popped up from one of our listeners in regard to the upcoming roadshow. And both you and Natasha are going to be at these roadshows?
That's correct. I'll be in Denver. And then Natasha will be joining us for San Francisco and Seattle. We are actually going, should have mentioned, we're then going on to Vancouver, British Columbia. I won't be there, but Natasha will. So good opportunity to meet with us in any of those 4 cities.
Excellent. Do you happen to know if there are any roadshows in New York City or New Jersey?
I can go ahead and answer that. There aren't, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Natasha.
There aren't any roadshows planned. We had an East Coast roadshow last year, but we do have reps in Washington, D.C., so Jeremy and I would also be happy to set up meetings with our colleagues in D.C. if that was of interest.
Yeah, so
excellent.
Email me directly and we can set something up for you. No problem.
Great. In terms of, there's a couple of questions we're receiving. A lot of it has to do with either a little bit on the infrastructure, a little bit also on the airlift. Do you happen to know a couple of the good locations within the U.S. to grab that flight that you were discussing? The flights, where would be a good place to start from in the United States in terms of airlift?
So in terms of getting to Johannesburg, I know that New York and DC have direct flights to Johannesburg. Other than that, you can also connect through London. So hopping a flight over to London and then London goes directly to Johannesburg. Anything else, Natasha, on that?
You can also, sorry, this is Talia. Hi, everyone. Oh. Go ahead.
You there, Talia?
I can just jump in on the flights there. There's also a possibility for Americans to fly through Ghana, through Accra, Ghana. So there's a few direct flights, I believe, from Atlanta and Washington, D.C. that stop in Accra, and then you can continue direct from Accra to Windhoek. Additionally, you can fly to Frankfurt and go direct to Windhoek on Air Namibia. So there's 2 options there.
Excellent. And in terms of infrastructure, you did talk a little bit in terms of the rooms available, et cetera. But in terms of audio-visual services, what types of audio-visual services do you have in country?
I can also answer that one. Sure. We have really sophisticated audio-visual services, and right now I can just say, based on our work with ATTA, it's been no problem to secure all the presentation materials that they need. The opening night, we've got a massive concert. It's actually part of the Jazz Festival, and we've got, I'm not very techie with audiovisual equipment, but we've got big screens, really excellent speakers, and the tech teams the teams are on site to assist with everything. The same, by the way, goes for Wi-Fi. For our summit, for Adventure Travel Summit, we've got Wi-Fi set up throughout the conference and throughout the conference venue, and also different locations in Swakopmund. It's called 4G. It's very speedy, and it's much better than some of the conferences I've been at in other parts of the world.
Great. There's another question here. You mentioned a little bit in regard to the requirements for Americans entering the country. Are there any things that we should be more aware of in terms of that? You said it was relatively simple, but is there more you can kind of elaborate along those lines?
Natasha, you want to take that?
On visas coming into the country?
Yeah,
sure.
Visas from North America.
Yeah, no, there's no problem. You can get them at the right at the border. There's no issues that I know of. The only thing is if you're coming through South Africa, at times there's a transit visa that can be important. There's no visa for actually going to South Africa, but if you're transiting through, that's something to consider.
But everything can be taken care of at the border, correct?
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
Great. Is there, we're also getting, is there some place online or some place that, should they reach out to you in terms of a list of contacts in Namibia for DMCs, on-site meeting planners, suppliers that they could potentially be partnering with?
Yeah, great. You know, we're actually going to send out a little packet after the webinar, so within the next couple of days, that will include the slides from the presentation today and a collection of resources, including the properties that were listed and plus more, and some key contacts in the country. So hopefully that will be a good resource for you guys, and if there's anything that's not on there that you're looking for more information, I'd be happy to work with you directly, and so just please contact me, and we'll take it.
And Jeremy, for our planners that are watching the recorded version, should they just contact you via the information on your slide to get that material?
Yeah, here you have it. It's Jeremy S. at sustainabletravel.org, and we'd be happy to send that information to anyone. So no problem.
That's great. We're also getting a question in regard to, oh, here's another one too. Let me, before we get into the experiences, the shot requirements, could you go over the shot requirements again? I do believe that there was at least a little bit discussed in regard to that during the presentation, but we're getting a couple of questions on that as well.
Yeah, there's no vaccinations that are required for visiting Namibia, so nothing there to report.
Excellent. And there's been a few questions in regard to you talked about a lot of the different locations, a lot of the different potential experiences. If you had to say that, what would you consider the top experiences? Something that just an international group outside, when they're traveling outside of the meeting room, when they're getting out and want to really experience Namibia, what would you say are the top things that are out there?
Yeah, I'll give my answer, then I'd love to hear Natasha's as well. My answer would definitely be Atocha, Atocha National Park. I think combining a meeting or an event in a place like Windhoek or Swakopmund, where you're going to have the world-class facilities and the world-class infrastructure, with a trip to Atocha, which really is a place unlike any that I've seen in my life. The wildlife there, it's really quite special. The opportunity to spend time in these really amazingly open landscapes with more wildlife than one could imagine. And it's all just so very accessible, and you really feel, I think, connected to nature and connected to wildlife in a way that I personally never imagined that I could have. So I just think I think Atocha is sort of a must-do if you're gonna travel all that way. And in particular, there are other places, of course, to see wildlife in Africa, but again, just because it's not crowded, the landscapes are really unspoiled, and you have the opportunity to just be so up close and so I think so not distracted by other things. It makes the experience extra special.
I can chime in with my favorite place in Namibia, and I've been to a lot of them now that I've been here a year. The dunes at Sossusvlei, which you see in a lot of the iconic pictures, are really spectacular and really special. And as a side note, there's a lot of hotels down at Sossusvlei, and I know that meetings and conferences are held down there up to 50, 60 people. So it's kind of a really unique location. You can stay right in the park, and it's totally stunning. It's impossible to take a bad picture in the south.
That's excellent.
Okay. It's impossible to take a picture, yeah. I came home and looked through my pictures, and I felt like I was a professional, so, and I'm not by any stretch.
Well, listen, Jeremy, Natasha, Talia, we want to thank you so much for your time today. I learned a lot about Namibia and its potential for meetings and incentives, and I'm sure that our participants did as well. I do want to make mention, March 13th, as Jeremy was stating, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time is Webinar 2 in the Namibia webinar series. You can actually register right now by clicking on that Register Now button right at the top of your screen. Talia will be our speaker for this. It's really looking at Namibia outside of the meeting room, the experiences that make it great. So it's more really about what we were just discussing here at the end, these top experiences that your attendees can come home with and really enjoy the memory of for years to come. We hope to see you there. And again, thank you all for joining us today for the Namibia webinar. Have a great day.